All right, so you guys asked for it, or maybe you didn't, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Another Jeep.
Don't worry about that little guy.
So this one is a 2004, right? So it's a 2004, and we are going to be fixing the frame. So we'll show you what's wrong with this one. All right, so starting off, our typical. Some rot right there coming through, and that's by the back rear control arms. Luckily on this one though, spring buckets are still good. Rear section of the frame is still good. But we've got this section on this side, and if we go to the passenger side, this one was just starting. I used what I like to call the money hammer on this one. A couple of holes right through it, no problem. So that's soft too. So we're gonna be doing this entire side, as well as the entire driver's side. And again, we don't have to do the spring buckets, and the frame looks great for the most part on the rest of it. But it's just, again, it's a lack of drainage in these things that absolutely kills them. All right, so since I can't find the money hammer, we're gonna use the money screwdriver. Show you this area right here. After a quick glance, you'd look under here and say, oh, well, that's not too bad. There's a little spot right in there, and maybe it looks like a little spot right in there. But if we take this screwdriver and we just push, and we push a little bit more. And we get that. That lower control arm is not even connected to the frame anymore. And the only thing holding it is this little piece of metal from here to here, because that's gone. All that up inside is gone. All this up inside here is gone. And so that was very close to that upper control arm mount completely breaking off, as well as the lower control arm mount completely breaking off. So that's something you definitely got to look for. And then you can tell, because of the way that it is, this is what's inside this frame. So we definitely have our work cut out for it. All right, so what we're going to be doing today, I want to kind of give you a step-by-step. So we're going to do a couple of videos on literally breaking down the entire process, including what we treat the inside of these frames with, what brackets we need to cut out, how much of the frame we need to cut out, why we need to cut it out, and what we're going to be doing with that. So the first thing on today's agenda, what we're going to do is we're going to treat the inside of this frame. Now, one of the most important things to understand is that this metal is going to rust no matter what, especially if you're in Connecticut or any of the states where there's a ton of salt on the roads and whatnot. So we want to give this thing the best possible chance to live for as long as possible. We're never going to stop it completely, but we want to give it a chance to live. So what I do is I use Rust-Oleum Professional Primer. This is a bare metal primer, so it will etch into this metal, and it'll take care of any potential surface rust that's already on the metal, plus it'll protect it over time. And luckily enough, right over here, if you guys look over here, you'll see that there's a drain hole in this frame. So now that we have drain holes, we're not going to have the same issues that we had prior, but it's always good to coat these things on the inside so that we mitigate as much of the chance of it rusting again as possible. So we're going to go ahead now and shoot this thing. We're always going to try to get as much as we can. If it runs, if you use too much, it doesn't really matter because it's inside, nobody can see it. Get it on there, get it in there, get some protection. Always use protection. And then also too, this area right here on top is an area that we're not going to be able to get to once this is in the vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and shoot this with primer as well. Get down in some of these little nooks and crannies here, areas that we can't get when it's on the car. All right, and now my favorite part, waiting for paint to dry. What we're gonna do now while we're waiting for that paint to dry, I'm gonna show you the process that I use to cut this frame out. Now there's several brackets that need to be cut off. There's several different things that need to happen. And I have a very specific process that I use that I found is just makes life a lot easier. All right, so one of the first things that I cut out is this bracket right here. This is the rear sway bar bracket. Now, cutting this bracket out allows me access into this area. The second bracket that we're gonna cut out is this bracket right here, which is for the rear upper control arm. Now you can see there's already significant rot all around that bracket. So we wanna get this out of here so that we can see behind it and make sure that everything behind it is okay. So we're gonna come in, we're gonna cut these two brackets off, and then we're gonna cut all along the frame here, right above where all the rot is. And if you come over on this other side here, and you guys take a look, you can see a very faint line. This faint line that runs all the way up here is the weld seam on the frame. That's usually what I aim to cut for. And this particular frame is in good enough shape to where that's as far as I'm gonna have to go up. And that'll take care of all of this rust that's over in here. It'll take care of all the crap that's below it down here. It'll take care of all this rust over here, and then all the stuff that's inside the frame still. We'll cut it right along that, well, it's an actual line, but I call it my imaginary line. And then we'll cut down here, and we'll cut the rest of it out. All right, so the most efficient way to cut these things out is with a plasma cutter. And now, 10 years ago, a plasma cutter was thousands of dollars. But luckily now, companies like YesWelder offer a high quality plasma cutter for next to nothing. I think this particular plasma cutter, the Cut 55 Pro, is like $249 or something ridiculous like that. And so they're definitely affordable. And even if you're just gonna use it one time, for 250 bucks, it'll make your life easier. Now you can use a grinder, a Sawzall, all kinds of other stuff. You're not gonna enjoy life at that point, because I've done it, I did it one time, and I'll never, ever do that again. So the beauty of a plasma cutter, the way that it works is it uses compressed air and an electrical arc to create cutting action. So it's like a cutting torch minus the gases. All you need is a small compressor and some electricity, and you get this. You get air power with an arc. It creates a little bit of a plasma that's hot enough to melt metal, and as you're cutting the metal, it blows it away, and you don't have to worry about it. And we can literally, we're gonna do it in real time. We're gonna show you guys how quickly we can cut all these pieces out of this frame. It's less than 10 minutes, literally less than 10 minutes to cut this frame apart. So plasma cutter is where it's at. If you plan on doing any kind of big work like this with metal, plasma cutter is the one you need to do. All right, so now we got both of these brackets out of here, and you can truly see how much rot there is up inside there. There's actually a huge piece in there that I just pushed, but the plasma cutter makes such nice quick work of all that, it slices right through it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut the rest of the frame. So as I'm cutting this frame, we'll throw some nice happy music for you guys to listen to, and we'll get it done. Alright, so now that we got everything cut out, we're going to give it a few whacks with a BFH and it should pop right out of there. So there we go. And there it is. And no matter what, the damn thing always tries to get me. I backed out of the way and it chased me all the way until it hit me. But we're safe, we're good. So that's it. Plasma cutter, would that take 7 minutes? Yeah, it was 7 minutes. So not too shabby. You do that with a grinder, you're going to be at it for 3-4 hours. Alright, so the next step in the process is we need to get rid of all the other crap in the frame. And you can see on the floor already that there's already a ton of crap that came out of the frame, but there's still more in it. So what I like to do is I grab the pry bar and I get up in here, and it's always right in this front section. You can see this big piece that just came out. And then we'll loosen all this up. And this is what kills the frame, guys, because this stuff holds water and it holds moisture and it holds salt and sand and everything else, and it just absolutely gets stuck and caked on in there. So scrape off as much as we can here. And then we're going to grab the air hose, we're going to blow all this out, and then we'll blow out the whole rest of the frame too. So here we go. Alright, so now that the frame is all cleaned out, we kind of have an idea what it looks like. Now, a lot of people ask, do we treat the inside of the frame on the truck itself and not just the thing? Occasionally, yes, we do. But this one is actually still pretty good. It's got a lot of the factory paint still left on it. So I think we're going to be just fine. Maybe we'll shoot a little bit of primer up in there, maybe we won't. But this is never exposed to any sort of moisture. It's all on the bottom of the frame. So you usually don't have to treat these unless they're super rusty. If it's super rusty, then I'll treat something, you know, shoot a little primer on it just to kind of save it and slow it down a little bit. But this frame actually looks pretty good, so might shoot a little bit inside here, but other than that, I don't think we'll do much of anything. So basically, now that we've got the frame all cut out, you guys saw that it took 7 minutes like we just said. I want to show you the areas that were prepped previously, because you saw the frame look like it was half sanded and half not sanded. And there's a reason for that. All the stuff that wasn't sanded was getting cut out. All the stuff that is sanded is getting welded to. So if you come over here and take a look, you'll see that now all the areas that we need to weld to are completely clean. You know, with the exception of some of the pitting in this area, but it's all cleaned up. So now the next step in the process is going to be finalizing the cleanup. There's a couple of spots in there that you can't get to until you cut everything out. So we're gonna end up finalizing that cleanup, and then the piece that we primed in the beginning of the video, we are actually going to then set that in place and clamp it and then weld it. So look out for the next video, because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be setting it up in there. I'll show you guys exactly how I position it. We'll show you guys how we measure it to make sure it's in the right spot. We'll show all the stuff that you guys probably haven't seen, because it's been over, I think, 20 videos now on these Jeeps, and I've explained it, but I've never actually showed it to you. So that's what's going to be in the next one, is we're going to put that piece up, clamp it in, we'll measure it, make sure everything's where it's got to be, and then we'll weld it completely out. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you guys enjoy the fact that we're breaking these down a little bit more than usual, because normally you don't get to see me doing the work because I don't have anybody helping me with the camera. So it just ends up being an explanation. So hopefully you guys will get some ideas on how this stuff is done, step-by-step process, what we do to coat them and everything else. So until the next one, we'll see you later.